So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of the ground Jacob had given his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tried as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews do not associate with the Samaritans. Jesus answered her, "If you know the gift of God, who it has asked for you a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The word of the God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
For those of you that don't know, my husband Andrew and I are expecting our first child, a little girl, in June. He's real excited over there. And one of our favorite things to grab for her while we're out shopping is books. A few weeks ago, we were shopping at the Yorkville Marketplace, and there was this booth, and she had sold all sorts of teas and tea sets. And this book caught my eye, not necessarily a baby book, but it'll be cute one day. And it's called Tea for Ruby. And it is written by Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York. And her daughters are Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. And of course, their grandmother was Queen Elizabeth. Now, I'm not going to sit here and read the whole book to you, but I will give you a little rundown. So Ruby doesn't look usually like someone that is ready to go have tea with the queen. She's got her messy pigtails. It looks like there's some stuff stuck in her hair. Mismatched outfit, some soccer cleats. Her tea's pouring all over the place. Her cupcakes are falling on the floor. Just not really tea party with the queen ready, per se. But she receives an invitation to have tea with the queen, and she is so excited she's just got to run and tell everybody about it. So she runs shouting to the mailman, "I've been invited to have tea with the queen." And the mailman says, "Ruby, I hope you won't shout when you have tea with the queen." She runs and jumps on her brother while he's talking on the phone and says, "I've been invited to have tea with the queen." And he says to her, "Ruby, I hope you won't interrupt when you have tea with the queen." She shows up to her ballet class with tutu around her neck, soccer cleats on her feet, and she goes to tell her ballet teacher, "I've been invited to have tea with the queen." And her ballet teacher says, "Ruby, I hope you'll dress appropriately when you have tea with the queen." She sits at the table with her family to eat dinner, stuffs her face full of spaghetti, and with a very full mouth says, "I've been invited to have tea with the queen." Then her parents say, "Ruby, I hope you remember your manners when you have tea with the queen." The morning of the tea comes, and Ruby is thrilled. She is getting ready, and she is going to that tea exactly as herself. She's got her messy pigtails, her dress covered in spilled cupcakes and whatnot. And when the car pulls up, she loudly runs out of the car, races to the door where the queen is waiting to greet her, and she says, "Grandma!" Of course, since this is based on Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, the queen is Ruby's grandmother. And Ruby's grandmother, the queen, didn't care if Ruby was too loud, interrupted, wore the right clothes, or had perfect manners. Ruby was exactly the person that she wanted to share tea with. And God feels the same way about us. I want to take a step back and focus on our Old Testament lesson from 1 Samuel, where Samuel anoints David as king. Saul's time as king was coming to an end, and God sent Samuel out to go anoint the next king. God sends Samuel to the house of Jesse and his 8 sons. Samuel sees 7 of the sons there with Jesse, and they look strong, capable, would make a good next king for the people. And he thinks, surely one of these boys will be the next king. He is confident. So one by one, Jesse presents his sons to Samuel, and son after son, God's like, nope, not him, not what I'm looking for. And they get through all 7 sons, and God doesn't say yes to any of them. So Samuel turns to Jesse and he goes, you sure you don't have any more? And Jesse says, well, there is my youngest son, but he's younger than the rest, and he's out in the field with the sheep. So Jesse brings David, the youngest son, before Samuel, and God says, this will be the next king, and to anoint him. David wasn't the most impressive choice, so much so that his own father didn't even think that he would be in the running. But that's exactly who God chose to serve as his next king. He isn't who anyone expected, not even Samuel or David's own father, but God still used him. David would be anointed as the next king, and eventually, as we read in the book of Matthew, the Messiah, Jesus Christ, would be born of the Davidic line. Whether it's right or wrong, I think most of us here can admit that when you have a specific job in mind, you have specific characteristics of a person that should be doing that job. We expect our construction workers to be strong, our dentists to have a bright, shining smile, our movie stars to always be camera ready, just like God's people expected a king that appeared strong and powerful and could lead them into battle. But instead, they got little, young David, who was so unlikely to our own human biases that his own father didn't even consider him a possibility. There are so many examples of these unlikely characters throughout the Bible. The Samaritan woman was an outcast. Noah was drunk. Abraham was too old. Jacob was a liar. Joseph was abused. Jonah ran from God. Martha's mind was always consumed with worry. Zacchaeus was too small, and Lazarus was dead. All of these people, and so many more in the Bible, weren't perfect, but God was still able to use them for his will. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7 says, people look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. It doesn't matter how unlikely of a character you feel you may be. You don't have to be perfect for God to use you. In God's eyes, you're the one for the job. Exactly as you are, and all you have to do is trust in him to lead you.